But Jesus was not being mean. He was protecting his mission. He knew what the Father had called him to do. He didn't prove his love by being endlessly available. And you don't have to either. Hi friend, today I'm starting a new series called Boundaries. And if you've been struggling to set and enforce them, especially after experiencing narcissistic abuse, you're in the right place. I know boundaries can feel impossible because you've been trained to people please, to put everybody else first, to never say no. And now maybe you say yes when you mean no. Maybe you feel guilty every time you try to protect yourself. Or maybe you are exhausted from being nice while your peace is slowly disappearing. And here's what I have learned. You cannot heal, rebuild your confidence, or strengthen your relationship with God without having boundaries. And we're going to be starting with something that you really need to hear. Nice is not always holy. So today I'm going to be unpacking why people pleasing isn't the same as kindness, what it really means to steward your life, and why saying no does not make you a bad Christian. So grab your journal and pen. Let's get into it. Before we dive in today, I want you to know something. You don't have to heal alone. I have a free community called Narcissism Unmasked, and it's for women just like you who are rebuilding their confidence and self-worth after narcissistic abuse. We have real conversations, honest support, and every week I host live healing conversations for the heart where you can connect with other women who truly get it. If you're tired of feeling alone in this and you want a judgment-free place to heal, come join us at bit.ly/narcissism unmasked. Do you want to heal from narcissistic abuse, but you struggle with self-doubt and second-guessing everything? If so, you're in the right place. I'm Takia, mom, coach, and your survivor friend. Here we mix faith, real talk, and practical tools to restore confidence and self-worth. So if you're ready to rebuild your confidence and finally feel at peace, take a deep breath. Exhale now. Let's heal for real. At a certain point in my life, there was this person that would make my inside squirm. Like, you ever been around some person and every part of you is just like, That's how it was. Every single time I was around them, these little comments would be dropped. Subliminal things. Subtle digs, comments about my parenting, questions that felt more like judgments and unnecessary, unwanted suggestions. And I was already dealing with a lot in addition to being a new mother. I was living in hell and did not even know it. So my confidence was fragile, and every time I left this person's presence, I felt super drained. I was questioning my motherhood, feeling like something was just wrong with me. And you know what I did? I stayed silent. I just brushed it off. I continued being in their environment because that's what nice people do, right? We don't set boundaries. We just take whatever is thrown our way, right? But there reached a point I couldn't deal with it anymore. I was in therapy at the time, and my therapist helped me to see what was happening. She helped me to see that I needed clear boundaries to protect my mental well-being, and that it was not okay for me to keep putting myself in situations where I was being subtly torn down. So I made a really hard choice, and I started keeping my distance. I decided I would no longer be in the presence of that person. And of course, guilt came knocking at the door. I was thinking maybe I'm overreacting, maybe I'm taking it too seriously. Am I doing the right thing? Maybe it's not so bad. I was confused. And truthfully, having a neutral third party, which was my therapist, to bounce these concerns off of was so important. Because I needed somebody that was outside of the situation, who had no dog in the fight, to tell me, you're not crazy. This is really affecting you. And you have all rights to protect yourself. But years roll by and I still struggle with the spiritual side of it. Setting and maintaining boundaries has been a very real struggle for me. It just seemed un-Christlike. But recently, I was reading Genesis, the creation story, and something jumped out at me that I never noticed before. In the beginning, God himself set boundaries. Like, what? On day 1, he separated light from darkness. On day number 2, he set boundaries between the waters above and the waters below. On day number 3, he set boundaries for the sea. Like, see, you can come this far and no further. This is your space. God didn't create chaos. He created order. And order requires boundaries. And then when he created mankind, he put boundaries in the garden. He told Adam and Eve, you can eat from any tree except this one. That was a boundary, a clear line. So boundaries never were a result of the fall. Boundaries were a part of God's original design for life. I was blown away. Because the truth is, without boundaries, there's no structure, no safety, no peace, just chaos. And if God, who is holy, set boundaries, then maybe boundaries are not so unholy after all. So you might be saying, yeah, but that was just in creation. What about in relationships? Well, I'll use the best example, Jesus, right? In Mark chapter 1, Jesus had been spending time healing people, casting out demons. And on this particular day, before it was actually morning, Jesus had gotten up and he went to an isolated place to pray. And his disciples were looking for him, like, where did Jesus go? And when they found that he was praying, they said, everybody's looking for you. And Jesus' response was so interesting. Jesus wasn't like, okay, let me go and attend to these people. No. He said, we have to go on to other tongues as well. I have to preach to them. That is what I came to do. Jesus left. He walked away from people who needed him, wanted him, who were searching for him. And can you imagine how that looked? It probably seemed so mean of Jesus. Like, how dare you walk away when we have sick people here that need healing? Like, how dare you do that? But Jesus was not being mean. He was protecting his mission. He knew what the Father had called him to do. He didn't prove his love by being endlessly available. And you don't have to either. So let's talk about the difference between true kindness and people pleasing dressed up as nice and holy. People pleasing is all about managing other people's feelings to avoid conflict. True kindness is about doing what's truly loving, even when it's uncomfortable. People pleasing says, I will say yes, even though I don't want to, because I don't want them to be upset with me. Kindness says, I will speak the truth in love, even if it's not what you want to hear. People pleasing avoids confrontation and conflict at all costs. Kindness speaks the truth when it needs to be spoken. People pleasing makes you responsible for everybody else's emotional state. Kindness reminds you that each person is responsible for their own emotions. So let me ask you this. Are you saying yes because it's truly good and loving? Or are you saying yes because you're afraid of disappointing people and having a negative reaction? When you set a boundary, you're not being selfish. You're being a good steward. Think about Genesis chapter 2. God put Adam in the garden to work it and keep it. That's stewardship. God gave him something to manage, to protect, to cultivate. And God has done the same with all of us. He has given us time, energy, a body, heart, a mind, gifts, talents, an entire life to manage and protect. Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. That's a command. Guard your heart. Not let everybody have access to your heart whenever and however they want. Let them do whatever they please to you. Not be nice at the expense of your well-being. Guard your heart. Guard it. And when you're saying yes to everything, when you are quote-unquote nice at the expense of what God gave you to steward, you are actually mismanaging what he entrusted to you. The long and short of it is you can't steward your life well without boundaries. But stewardship requires the freedom to choose. And if you can't say no without having that crushing guilt, then you're not making choices. You're most likely just complying out of fear. So think about it. If somebody asks you to do something and you say yes, but inside is more like, I don't want to do this, is that really a choice? Or are you just going through the motions because you are too afraid to say no? God made all of us with free will. We're not robots. God gave us the ability to choose. And that includes the ability to say no. And when you can't say no, technically you've kind of lost your freedom. You're not stewarding your life. You're letting others dictate it. I want you to think about what would happen if you started saying no. Let that sit a little bit. What would change? What would it look like for you? So here's the truth. Nice isn't always holy, but stewardship is. And when you set boundaries, you're not being selfish. You're stewarding what God gave you. Just like He gave Adam the garden to work and to keep, He's given you your life to manage and protect. And this life includes your mental and physical and spiritual well-being. So I want to challenge you today to practice saying no to one thing. Just one. Something that you would normally say yes to out of guilt or the need to be quote-unquote nice. And when you say no to that one thing, I want you to journal about what happens. In our next episode, I'll be talking about what boundaries actually are. So I'll see you then. If today's episode hit home for you, I would love to see you inside Narcissism Unmasked. It's my free community where women healing from narcissistic abuse come together to talk honestly, rebuild their confidence, and support each other through the hard stuff. Remember those weekly life healing conversations I mentioned? That's where real connection and breakthrough happens. You're not just listening to a podcast. You're a part of something real. Join us at bit.ly/Narcissism Unmasked. And if you want to stay connected between episodes, become an insider. You'll get weekly emails with new podcast drops, healing tips, and first access to anything special I'm working on. Sign up today at bit.ly/Confidence Insiders. Hey friends! I hope today's episode taught you something or gave you a boost. If it did, would you take a couple seconds and share it with someone who's ready to heal from narcissistic abuse? And while you're at it, would you please leave me a quick review on Apple Podcasts? It really thrills me to know that other women are being helped. Now go ahead, stretch or grab that snack. I'll see you in our next episode.